Hello, everyone. This is Michelle Moreland. I'm at DragonCon 2015. So excited to be here with the wonderful author, Carole Barrowman. Welcome, Carole.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. First, I'd love to ask you a little bit about the writing class here at DragonCon. DragonCon's so great about doing classes for the fans and really helping them understand different industries. And so I know you've kind of been part of that this year.
I have, and what's really exciting about it, the feedback has been really awesome. But because I'm a teacher, part of what I want to do when I come to those cons is not only meet fans, but to give a little back. And I get a lot of requests from people to say, oh, we love your writing. Can you tell us a little bit about how do you get published? How do you get an agent? How do you do all of those kinds of things? Mm. And a lot of people can't afford to pay for a class. So I feel I started doing this maybe 2 or 3 cons ago, and the people have just been wonderful about it. So essentially, I structure it so that I give 5 pieces of advice, and I give 5 pieces of advice. But then, because I'm a teacher, I know that just talking at people doesn't get anywhere, because it doesn't filter in, and you don't really. So I also do it very interactively. I teach at a college in Milwaukee, Alverno College, and one of the things that we do very well is to give you a chance to demonstrate what you're learning. And so even in a small hour session, those 5 essential things that every writer, doesn't matter if you're writing a comic strip, it doesn't matter if you're writing a film script, a TV script, a novel, whatever, and I've done all of those things, you need to have these 5 things in your writing. So I feel like when people leave, and we practice it, how do you do it? I put up a paragraph that's very badly written. I wrote it. Clunky, it's meant to be badly written. And then I put it up there, and then I work them through the 5 things, and then they rework it with me. And by the time they leave, what's really cool, people say, no one's ever told me this before. And I'm like, well, that's why I'm doing this.
That's awesome. That's great. And I know the fans have appreciated it. I saw several tweets of just loved the class and great support.
Good.
Yeah.
Thanks. That means a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And you went on a little bit of an adventure last night, I hear, to downtown Atlanta called a little place CNN. So tell us a little bit about that little adventure.
Well, it turns out that Rosemary Church, who is the international anchor, I believe, I'm sure she's got a more formal title than that, loves John and my brother, John Barrowman, obviously, and my collaborator, and John loves her. And so John tweeted that we were coming to Comic-Con, and he knows that all 3 of us, John and his husband and myself, are huge news junkies. So he said, he was tweeting her, and she said, oh, you've got to come on the show. She said, John can do maybe a little segment on DragonCon and on updating on some of what he's doing. And then John said, well, can I bring my sister and my husband, and can we get a little tour, because they're huge news junkies? And she said, of course. So when we got there, here's what was really fun, is there was a tour from DragonCon there with about, 5 or 6 fans. And so then, of course, John walks in, and they're like, oh my God, how do you end up in CNN? And then you get to be on a tour with John. So that was really cool. But then what we did is they let us take over the anchor desk. And we did, as many fans know, John and I are Scottish. When we talk to each other, we talk in our Scottish accent. And so we took over the CNN international anchor desk, and we did a Scottish sibling news update. And it was very funny. It was very funny.
Great.
I'll post it online when John texts it to me.
Speaking a little bit about John, what is it like interpreting some of his thoughts sometimes? Because I know that you have written for him with his autobiography and things like that, and with all the different collaborations you've done. What is it like trying to interpret his thoughts sometimes?
Well, I as more people get to know me and him together, they realize that we pretty much, our thoughts are a lot the same. And so it's not as hard as you would imagine. But yeah, especially with the autobiography, because I felt that I had, even though obviously we lived a lot of those same experiences, because the first autobiography, Anything Goes, is very much our family story, but it's told from John's point of view. And so luckily we have a similar sense of humor, and we just have a similar value and outlook, worldview. But I always tell people, by the time I got done with the second volume, I felt like I had this gay man in my head, and I had to purge him, It was like, edit out of here! I mean, the only good thing is I was perfectly coiffed most of the time, because he's very good at that. But it was like,
That's great.
Yeah. But there was that was very fun. But the other things that we do together, John is very imaginative. It's one of the things that my parents nurtured in both of us, and we've got great imaginations. He is very talented, but he doesn't write. I mean, he can write, but
Right.
he doesn't have that. That's not his talent. It's not his talent to imagine and create with words. And so when we do work on our collaborations, he and I, even at events like this, we grab when we can time. We're going to go to the airport a little early. Well, I'm sure we'll sit in the bar, and he and I are working on a pretty big project for DC that we can't say anything about, but. So we'll grab some time. I just tape our conversations, and then I take that stuff. And he doesn't really see anything until after then I've taken that, and his ideas, my ideas, and then we shape it into whatever it has to be. And then he looks at it on the other end and says things like, that's not a motorcycle that could do that,
Wait, let me tell you a technical side here.
Right.
Now, the two things that I'd like to bring out real quick about writing, Torchwood.
Yes.
What was it like with the fan base that's already there, writing that comic strip with John and getting it out there? And I know it has a huge following now. So what's that been like?
Well, it's been really kind of, it was exciting for me because I was a fan of Doctor Who with John when we were growing up. And I was also a fan of Torchwood. And so we did the comic strip, and then that actually led us into doing Exodus Code, which is our novel, the Torchwood novel. We felt a huge responsibility to that because Russell Davies, who of course recreated the whole franchise, and all the BBC wanted it to be canon, which means you cannot screw up with little details. And every draft that we made, the BBC went right up the chain of command at BBC Wales, and they looked at it. The hardest thing we had is we really wanted to put Ianto in there because we know how much Ianto meant to fans, and the book was meant to take place after Miracle Day, which meant, of course, that Torchwood didn't look the same anymore. Right. So, and every time we kept saying to them, can we bring back some? No, it has to be these characters. So what ended up happening is that, and this was because of fans, because we wanted to make sure that we addressed fans really, really well, is that we worked Ianto into a very lovely dream sequence. And then they couldn't do any because it was Captain Jack's head.
Right.
So that's how we did it.
So last, I'd love to ask about Hollow Earth.
Yes, great.
Great series. I know it has also a wonderful fan base. Can you talk a little bit about it, and do you have any more coming out?
Yes, thank you, and thank you for asking about that series. It's a children's fantasy series. The first 3 books, the third one will be out. It's called Book of Beasts, and it will be out next month. Great. So we're very excited about that. Simon & Schuster publishes the trilogy. It's about a brother and sister, twins, and when they draw, their drawings come to life, and they can move in and out of art. And the first time they do that, it unleashes a whole series of sort of fantastic adventures with art. And the trilogy sort of takes an arc across all 3 books, but each one is sort of self-contained as well. And it's been so well received with fans. It's a middle grade novel, so it's 8 and above. Adults are loving it. Yeah. And so our publisher asked, would we raise the age level of the brother and sister and do another trilogy. So I am right now, John's looking at I just finished the rough draft of the manuscript. John, that's one of the things we're going to work with. He's going to look at that, and then I'll go back and I'll do all our notes and all our revisions. And that will be out first in the UK next February. And I don't know that that's been released, the title, but I can tell you for fans.
Yay.
It's going to be called Conjurer.
Cool.
Yes, and the cover is so awesome.
That's
when
great.
I get permission, I'll post it, and I'll make sure John posts it for fans.
That'd be wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here with Dragon Con and being with us, taking a few minutes to share with our fans.
I love this con.
It is a great
one of my
convention.
favorites.
Yes. It is. I mean, the fans are amazing.
And all you volunteers, I know that wouldn't exist without you, and you should. I know you know this, but we all really appreciate you all.
Well, thank you, Carole. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.